Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. By the way, I should find a throat doctor.
I think it.
All right. We're waiting a call from Dr. Tom Tarter, who is a Republican candidate in the primaries. And if he's successful, he will oppose the illustrious Mr. James, Mr. Durbin. In the meantime, we're going to... we have a phone call?
That's him.
Yes, right to go. Go ahead, Dr. Tarter.
How are you this morning?
Good morning, sir. I don't have it on my headset, Jim.
Sure.
I don't have doctor on my headset.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, yes.
Ask him again.
Okay. As soon as I hear Dr. Tarter, I'll start.
He's got to talk to him.
Oh, say. All right. Dr. Tom Tarter, candidate for United States Senate in the primary during this March 17th election. Dr. Tarter, welcome aboard, sir. How's the campaign going for you, sir?
Campaign's going very well.
Oh, fine and wonderful. I have you. I'm hearing you 5 by 5 now is what you. Now, tell us a little bit about what motivated you to run for this seat. Gordon knows it needs to be filled well.
Well, in the first place, we're a political family. We've supported the Sangamon County Republican Party with a lot of our time and money and a lot of effort, and we support candidates, and we were just wondering who was going to challenge Dick Durbin, who with statewide name recognition and money, and there was nobody. And I called all the leadership of the party, and they just said there was nobody, and it really bothered me. It bothered me because of what the Democrats are planning for health care. So that was the impetus, but really immigration, public safety, the economy, I just feel like we need a change, and I think Illinois needs a senator who is going to support President Trump and who will represent the values of all the people of Illinois, not just liberal Chicago.
And it seems to me, Doctor, that you made a rather altruistic decision. Stepping down from the practice of medicine is a quantum leap.
I retired 3 years earlier than I planned for this.
I'm getting it.
But I did that with the permission of my family.
Yeah, well, it would be nice to have Mrs. Tarter in on the secret, that's for sure.
Yeah, they supported me on this. But it took a lot of it. I didn't just jump in. I really did test the waters. I met with leaders in the Republican Party in Illinois. I called every county chairman and met with the Central Committee members. And I realized that this is possible, and I believe this year it will be possible to replace Dick Durbin.
Well, that's the main problem. We talk about term limits. Those who vote, they can exercise their own term limits if they do it judiciously. We can leave Mr. Durbin stay at home. You are in a primary fight to start with. That's correct, sir? How many oppositions do we have, Doctor?
There are 5 of us who have filed.
Oh, my.
And of the 5, I've raised the most money from nothing.
Yeah.
I raised the most money. I'm the only candidate that's done statewide polling. And mostly that's for messaging. And the good news from my poll among Republicans most likely to vote in the primary is that Trump's favorable rating is 85%.
Yeah.
And I've also hired a political team, a very experienced political team. They've run 500 Republican races over the last 10 years. So I'm really positioned the best for the nomination.
And you feel strong about your position right now, Dr. Tarter?
I do. I think I have the right message, and I think I'm the right messenger.
Well, and you're certainly coming at some of the problems that the country is facing from a unique perspective, Doctor, in that not only have you been a physician and surgeon, but a professor and researcher as well, and we are questioning the health practices in our country, and you're certainly in a position to address that.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, I'm a surgeon, so I don't leave things to chance. I've been elected to some fairly high positions in medical organizations. I just came off the Health Policy Council of my professional organization. But in looking at U.S. healthcare policy and really looking at the ways that Republicans can lead on the issue of reducing health insurance cost and also the cost of healthcare overall, I actually read a graduate level textbook on U.S. healthcare policy. So there is no senatorial candidate, including Dick Durbin, who has more experience and who is more authoritative on U.S. healthcare policy than me. And if people go to my website, drtarter.com, it's drtarter.com, there's actually a white paper that I wrote on how we can reduce the cost of health insurance and healthcare without surrendering to socialized medicine.
That's a big point, without surrendering to socialized medicine. Let me ask you a question, Doctor. Is the White House giving any assistance to Senator Durbin's oppositions? Are any of the primary candidates getting assistance?
Yeah, the Republican National Committee really has their eye on the 14th and the 6th congressional districts in Illinois. Those were solid Republican districts until the last midterm election, and then they flipped blue with candidates that are so far left wing, off the rails. So those districts can be flipped back to red, and so they're paying a lot of attention to that. I think they're going to put a lot of money into those races.
I was hoping so.
So expect to see me in the 6th and 14th district campaigning a lot.
Great. Another question that faces our country certainly is the business of illegal immigration. And you had completed your residency program in California, so you lived that firsthand, unlike us in Central Illinois. And what do you feel about illegal immigration?
Well, the problem is the magnitude of the problem is so large now that it's way beyond an enforcement issue. But we have to rid our communities of illegal immigrant criminals. You know, these sanctuary laws make our communities unsafe, and frankly, sanctuary laws are unconstitutional. They violate the Supremacy Clause, which means that federal law always supersedes state and local laws, and immigration is only under the control of the federal government. So these sanctuary laws make no sense. Local jurisdictions need to they need to cooperate with federal authorities, and they do in all cases except for immigration. So I have met with families who have lost loved ones to illegal immigrant criminals who have then been released from custody and are never seen again. And it's just, it's mind-boggling, really. So we need to insist. I love what the president's doing. He's trying to withhold federal funds from these jurisdictions until they cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement.
Absolutely.
There are other things, too. I will support full funding of Homeland Security appropriations to build the wall. You know, Democrats don't want a wall because walls are effective. Where the wall has been constructed on parts of the border, illegal border crossings have dropped to almost nothing. So walls are effective, and that's why the Democrats don't want the wall.
When they get here, they want to vote.
Borders.
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
On the other hand, the loyal opposition party espouses things like they should have free education and free health care, and we're not talking about immigrants who are doing so legally. They're talking about illegal immigrants.
I know. So we need to just cut that off, because that's just a magnet for more illegal immigration. So is amnesty. If we offer amnesty as part of a comprehensive immigration bill, that's just going to invite more illegal immigration. It has to stop. And we have an opportunity to make it stop. These people are welcome. The people who are here illegally are welcome to apply for citizenship like everybody else, but they have to go back to their countries, stand in line, and apply for a green card and come into the country legally. What happens with a lot of illegal immigrants is that they get a visa to visit a family member or something, and then they overstay their visa. So we need to really we need to tighten up. But when you have 20 or 30 million, I mean, that's way beyond an enforcement issue. So if they're living in the shadows, we didn't put them there. But unfortunately, I mean, it's sad because they bring their children, and their children can't apply for scholarships or college or anything like that because they're afraid that their parents are going to be identified and that ICE will come and remove them. That's not true, but they shouldn't have driver's licenses. They shouldn't have Medicaid. They shouldn't have all of these social services. And it's not being heartless. We didn't go to Mexico, pick them up, or Central America, and pick them up and bring them here and say, live in the shadows.
Dr. Tarter, as a candidate for a statewide office, that means you've got to go from Rockford to Cairo to cover this territory.
Correct, and I do.
Boy,
I was down in St. Clair County on Saturday. Drove up to Lake County at the very top of the state on Sunday. Went back to Springfield the next day and drove up to Henderson County for a Lincoln Day dinner. And now I'm up in Schaumburg today. I'm all over the place. I'm trying to be everywhere at once.
Well, you can't do that, but you can sure try. I worry about the primary. It would appear to me, without knowing any of the other gentlemen, that you'd be the prime candidate for the Republican Party, and I worry about getting through the primary, Doctor.
Well, I do too, because name recognition is the key. Yes. And so I've hired this pretty experienced political team. They've run 500 races, Republican races over the last 10 years, and we're just doing our very best to get the name out. And we've purchased what advertising we can purchase on the radio and on Facebook and Google, and it's just a matter. And then we're at the commuter stations passing out my literature, and we've been doing this for since July. Yes,
well, as a side issue, tell your team that we didn't get any campaign money here, WLCN. Our station engineer manager put me the signal on that. So Dr. Tom Tarter, candidate for the United States Senate, a very, very important job under any circumstances, but especially so in today's times. We are not being very well served. This isn't a personal observation. It isn't a station observation, by the way. And I'm not even sure I speak for Judy, but I think I do.
Dick Durbin represents Chicago.
Yeah, yes.
And the liberal left, but he really doesn't represent the values of all the citizens of Illinois.
And we have different values down here, as have been exhibited down through the years. Dr. Tom Tarter, do you have just close out with just a couple of minutes. Now, the reason we're shortening this, Doctor, is we have two gentlemen from the Logan County Board here as supervisors, and we have a very serious courthouse problem physically. And they're going to have to try to have a little referendum, so we're going to have to blow a little smoke for that in a little bit. But would you like to sum up just a few minutes here, Dr. Tarter?
Sure. I think this is the year that Dick Durbin can be defeated. First of all, there's going to be a red wave sweeping across the heartland. People are just tired of being pushed around by the liberal left. They don't like what the Democrats have done to the president. You look at the Kavanaugh hearings; it's just disgusting, and people are just tired of it. And they're going to come out in droves in November. The other thing is the Democrat Party is very disorganized right now, and somebody's going to stay home, whether Bernie is denied the nomination or whether the
Joe.
vice president is denied the nomination. Somebody's going to stay home, and I think this is just the year that we have the opportunity. Jim Oberweis in the last race, state senator from up north here.
Elgin, somewhere in that neighborhood. He was a farmer, dairy farmer.
Yeah, exactly. He's got the ice cream stores, and he got 47% of the vote, and he was outspent 3-1. So there is a lot of Durbin fatigue, and we will put a lot of resources. I will raise a lot of money for that race, and then I want to help the president. I want to represent all of Illinois. I want to keep our neighborhoods safe and secure our border, and transition from a family-based chain immigration system to a merit-based system. And I want to stop socialism. And I do want to help the president, and I want to help the president reduce the cost of health insurance and health care overall, and I know that I can do that. I am for term limits. I would support a constitutional amendment for that, but in the meantime, I think politicians have to let us know how many terms they plan to stay in Congress, and then they need to be held to that in the future.
Well, there's some glaring examples of people who just camp out there in the Capitol Dome, and they talked about the swamp, and they are swamp residents. There's no question about that.
Yep.
Dr. Tom Tarter, we appreciate very much your spending your time with us this morning. You're up there in the northern part of the state, and wish you well. We wish you well. This being a public broadcasting company, I guess I'm supposed to use some discretion. So.
That's okay. I was on WTGW last night, which is the PBS outlet for Chicago. And I was, I made all the same points last night that I'm making here. I mean, this is a public forum, and it should be, people should be able to say what they say, and if you have an opinion, that's fine too. I mean, that's the nature of our free speech public discourse.
Yes, I can defend that, as we have the morning coffee hour down in the courthouse square. Doctor, we wish you well. You and I are in touch. If there's anything else personally that we can do down here, don't hesitate to give us a ring or an email. I
appreciate it.
I want to go to work for you, sir.
Well, thank you. Once I prevail in the primary, then I'll be back to Logan County. I live right there.
Yes, right.
I live in Sangamon. So anyway, it's been a real pleasure talking with you this morning, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your program.
Thank you. We'll talk to you later, Dr. Tom Tarter, candidate for the United States Senate. All right. We're going to dispense with the kudos and that sort of thing, because we want to get right into business.
Right.
Judy, why don't you introduce our guest, and then we're going to tell about... we'll take a commercial break. Thank you very much. Hello, testing 1, 2.
On Viewpoint, and we continue in the political vein, I guess, in that we have two representatives of the Logan County Board with us. We're going to be discussing a very important matter, that being on your ballot when you go the 17th of March to vote. And it is what we're going to do about the Logan County Courthouse. I guess it's kind of human nature to just assume that when we have something that we'll always have it. And in the case of the courthouse, that isn't the case. And David Blankenship and Jim Wessbecher are going to tell us what the referendum says, what needs to be done, and the stupidity of somebody having mentioned that, well, we'll just tear it down. I can't imagine where that came from, and I don't want to know. But let's discuss
Uninformed minds is where it came from.
Let's just talk about taking that courthouse for granted, and it matters. It matters to this community, and it matters to the state of Illinois. It's a beautiful building and historically very appropriate. Jim, you want to start? Lay it out.
Lay it out. Well, one thing, it's a historic courthouse district for downtown, so businesses around the courthouse can qualify for grants, and if you tear it down and do away with it, you don't have a historic district downtown, so therefore that goes away.
So the merchants ought to care about that.
The merchants, yeah. It's a plus for them that they can qualify for historic grants.
That's right.
It's been used like in the Scully building, things like that. I'm sure that they got grants that they qualified because it was historic.
Let's cut to the chase just a minute, David and Jim. I'm trying to phrase this so it'd be correct. The bottom line is, I don't believe that this county can operate efficiently at all, even during the interim period while you were making a switch over from the old courthouse to the new courthouse, wherever that might be and whatever it might be. It would be a travesty to lose the Logan County Courthouse that we now enjoy it downtown. It would be a travesty to the folks who live and work in there to try to operate their business, which is so vital to the county, during an interim period. I can't imagine the logistics of moving everything out of the circuit clerk's office to some God knows where place, a storefront somewhere, and the county treasurer's office to some storefront somewhere, and expect the offices to be able to give us a service that they now give us. Just the idea. Now, the one thing that I want to emphasize is this is not a tax per se. The amount, 50 cents on the $100, is minuscule. I mean, most people spill that much before they get going in the morning. And I don't want to be trite about that or facetious. It's a very, very small amount. And it's not on groceries, and it's not on prescription medicine. Am I correct in that?
Right.
So I just don't see how the electorate in this county would not support your efforts to keep this grand old building exactly the way we have it, or in better condition than it is now.
Well, just like you said, if we tear the courthouse down and build a new one there, you're going to displace all those offices, so you're going to have the cost of trying to find a building that for each office, you're going to have rent, you're going to have security. You're talking about a nightmare.
Oh, talk about fruit basket upset.
Yeah.
If you funnel all those people out of the courthouse and put them someplace else for 2 years it takes to put up a building, good grief, what a mell of a ass.
And what would the downtown look like without that courthouse building? Now, I know that's aesthetics, and aesthetics, they cost money. But I can't imagine coming around what we used to call Kresge's Corner, the dime store corner, and finding some monstrosity there that built by some modern day architect. It's just, I can't believe it. 648-5510. I want you folks to weigh in. If you have some questions for David Blankenship and Jim Wessbecher, this is a really very, very important issue. We appreciate the gentleman's forbearance while we had Dr. Tom Tarter on a few minutes ago. The Logan County Courthouse referendum is as big an item we're going to have on the ballot in a long time. So feel free to call in. If you criticize them, that's all right. We'll take your number and come get you. So,
Now, David.
no, seriously, I don't want to be facetious. This is a very serious matter. Go ahead, Judith. Okay.
David, you've been involved in construction for a lot of years.
I have.
What do you figure it's going to take? Do you think this 50 cents on $100 is going to make enough inroads into the debt we've built because it's been ignored for far too long?
Yes, it should, Judy. We're projecting about $8 million cost plus or minus 15%. The facility tax referendum, as you know, it does have a sunset clause in 20 years. So if we were to go out and bond for the amount that we need to fully restore the courthouse, if there's additional years left after we've paid the principal and interest of the bond, we can utilize those funds to maintain the facility years down the road, which is one of the problems we've obviously had.
That's exactly right. Maintenance is a big word.
It is. And at this point, it's hard to project, obviously, because that sales tax revenue that comes in off the facility tax will fluctuate, as you all know. So it's all we can do is project at this point, but the hope is that we would end up with enough revenue in a reserved capital account that can only be used for the courthouse that we could sustain and maintain the courthouse for years to come. But I do want to mention that the county board could vote to suspend that tax at any given point. If we feel that we have enough reserve to maintain it, then we could vote to prematurely suspend it ahead of the 20 years.
Which, under optimum conditions, would be a wonderful thing to have happen.
It would.
But I want to emphasize this sunset clause. It will stop at the end of 20 years, irregardless.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. Yes. The other two referendums that were on the ballot the previous 2 years, those did not have a sunset clause on them. They would have gone on indefinitely. So.
Go ahead, Judy.
This poor building is just deteriorating from the top down. Now, that third floor courtroom, that's one of the largest courtrooms in the state, as a matter of fact, with its significant murals on Third. That doesn't work anymore, does it?
Well, a few days after I became was appointed building and grounds chairman, I'm sure you're aware of this, we had a lot of water infiltration coming in from the dome area, and we did experience a collapse of the third floor courtroom ceiling in a small area. And so it's uninhabitable at this point in time. We've rented what used to be, I believe, the old Woolworths building, the Orr building, and Avon Comstock, okay. And currently that's where they're conducting business for the third floor courtroom is over there. So.
And the dome can't be seen by us anymore.
No. We've the previous building and grounds chairman seen fit to and made his way to have the historic stained glass removed because we were having some of the shotcrete that is on the interior of the dome break away due to the water infiltration, and it was destroying the glass, and so we had to have that removed and put up polycarbonate, which was a good move.
Absolutely, that was a move in the right direction. Somebody did something rather than stand there and wring their hands and say, oh, what are we going to do? I suspect that most of our listeners, maybe both of them, have not taken time to be in the courthouse and just stand there in the rotunda and look up. Of course, you can't do that today. But in the old days, I remember when I was a kid in Boy Scouts. Boy, that's a long time ago. Anyway, I was just kind of amazed at how pretty that was. And as a thing of beauty, that's no longer able. We're not able to do that because they've had to shield that off and prevent pieces dropping into the first floor on the rotunda there. I want to emphasize this 50 cents on 100. That's a minuscule amount when it comes to saving what we need to save.
It really is, and if for example, we don't see our way through this and are able to restore it, and let's say, for example, that we just are able to find our way through sealing the dome only, we're in such poor shape that if we have a catastrophic failure, for example, if the boilers were to go down or something like that, it's going to cost even more if we piecemeal this. And as you mentioned earlier, if we have to displace people and we have all the expense of IT and security and everything else, our costs are just going to go up exponentially, let alone the disruption to society, because the odds are you may have to go several places to tend to your county business instead of one. So this is really the most cost-effective thing we can do at this point.
In the event that there are people who haven't seen this flyer that's very impressive that you've had designed, could you share with us the bullet points that you've got on here, because they really kind of cover what we're talking about preserving here. Jim?
Well, you talked about the stained glass dome that we have. Right now it's been in storage since they took it down. Get enough, that's part of the restoration, is to bring that back, repair it, and replace it so it'll be back where it belongs in the courthouse and not sitting in crates around the county.
And it's one of the largest domes in the state.
Right. And the courtroom is one of the largest courtrooms.
Yes.
It's also considered the second most architectural courthouse in the state of Illinois. The first one was
Would you like to talk to him?
Macoupin County, which they call the $1 Million Courthouse.
Okay, hang on.
You have questions, Jim?
Yeah, you might want to put those.
Put your headset on, Jim. One of you, Jim, put your headset on there. We have a caller, and go right ahead, caller.
Well, good morning. It's Mary Kelly, the circus.
Oh, we love Mary Kelly. Yeah.
We're just kind of calling. I've been listening a little bit, and I want to put my plug in also for the importance of this referendum. I've been in the building a long time, and we have seen a lot of repairs over the years, but we are at a point now that we need everybody to pitch in. I think the other night Dave said a good statement, which was, this is our investment as a community. And this referendum, 50 cents on every $100, it will affect the people coming from out of town. Last weekend we had the John Welsh Memorial basketball tournament. That would have, the people coming in, staying in the motels, eating at the restaurants, they would have been helping with this referendum.
Well, Mrs. Kelly, number one, Judy and I want to thank you for the service that you've rendered to the citizens of the county over the years. You've been a whale of a lady up there. Judy and I often say, and I mean this sincerely, we think we've got the best courthouse crew in the 102 counties in all of our offices up there, and Mary Kelly certainly represents exactly what I'm saying.
Amen.
So thank you very much.
Well, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's been my honor. I've grown up in here, and I truly love the county, the court system. I appreciate what you just said.
Thank you very much, Mary Kelly. All right, gentlemen, the time frame on this, if this were successful, and Lordy, we hope it will be, when would you start some action? And this is something that you can't kick this can down the road.
No, there'll be some time that'll pass. We have to obviously work if the referendum passes, we have to work everything through the state. And it'll be a little bit of time that'll pass before we actually receive revenue to do this. In terms of construction, the specialist is telling us and projecting that it'd probably be around 22 months if everything goes well. I would not stick firm with that. I would say that it could probably be a 3-year project, actually. When you consider weather and materials and that type of thing, I'm sure there'll be some delays on a project of this size. So. Would
the referendum hopefully raise enough money? There are some very significant, historically significant things in there. For instance, that antique Seth Thomas clock, 9 foot tall, still keeps time.
4 of them.
Yeah, and the largest courtroom, the hand carvings over each entrance of the state seal of Illinois. These things are historically significant, not only for somebody who lives in Lincoln or Logan County, but all over.
They really are, and there's been no discussion that those things would be removed in any way. I think that they're going to be preserved. I can tell you with regards to the clock, it is still functioning.
Yes, which is wonderful.
The bell has been shut down because of vibration.
Vibrations,
That's
of course.
correct.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to protect the roof system.
Well, you're kind of just putting out brush fires, aren't you, now?
Yes, the county
Well,
has
that's
been
exactly correct, Judith. That's a good way to put it. We have a big, large conflagration here, and we're running from here and running there, stomping on the flames, trying to put out the fire, and that isn't going to work.
It's true. The county's been in mitigation mode for quite some time.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Not
exactly
remediation
right.
mode, and it's got to stop. And it's just finally reached the point where no is no longer an acceptable answer when it comes to this. We have to do something.
That's right.
Hey, we can wring our hands and talk about it all we want, but somebody's got to get up and make a motion and get something done.
And finally, somebody has.
That's correct.
Thank you, God, for that. Now, if we don't back you who are promoting this issue, we're sunk.
I hate to sit on the county board the morning after the election and find out we weren't successful.
Yes. Plan B would probably be that, I would assume, obviously, this would require a full board vote, but I would assume that Plan B would be just simply dry it in. And then you've got a lot of risk. When it comes to the facility, continuity of government is rather difficult. When it's a little different than IT and filings and that type of thing, But if we have to do Plan B and we dry it in, and then we have a catastrophic failure that would require 2 weeks worth of work, what are we going to do at that point? I mean, we're probably going to have to relocate people again, because last year, I believe it was, we had a problem with the boiler and we had to shut down for a day.
Yeah.
So
Now, already we've been impacted, and in my judgment, rather seriously. We're not able to use that third floor courtroom, so we rented downtown office space to use in lieu of the third room.
Okay.
That has to be a real problem. I think we have a caller, so get your headsets on, please. Find it. Go right ahead. Go right ahead, caller.
Hi. Just wanted to tell you, I know in the county, I've heard several people say, people don't comment on our courthouse. Well, I've heard 2 different visitors comment on how gorgeous and how wonderful our downtown is. One was during the basketball tournament. I was up at one of our local coffee shop establishments, and there was a woman on the phone describing to her family about downtown and the city itself and how beautiful it is. And then number 2, the other night, Monday night, I was in another local coffee shop, and about 6 o'clock at night, and there was a gentleman that was traveling from St. Louis to Chicago. And anyway, long story short, he stopped in for a cup of coffee and a quick break, and he was commenting on how beautiful our historical downtown is. And anyway, I just want to tell the citizens of the county, and this is something we need to do. We really do need to do it, because bystanders, visit our area, and this is wonderful. So,
Summing it up, you said, and I appreciate the way you phrased it, this is something we need to do, period. So we appreciate your statement, and thank you for your interest. Have a nice day, my dear. Thank you very much.
Before that clock ticks us off, I want to, we tend to badmouth you politicians. I don't know if you've noticed that, but we do. And I'd like to commend the Logan County Board, as it sits today, for getting behind this and deciding finally that it's time to stop kicking the ball down the road. We've got to bite the bullet. We've got to do something about this, or we won't have it. If you don't take care of what you have, you don't have it. That's all there is to it.
yes, that's correct.
And I commend you.
And this is within our reach. We've been told that our bonding ability is roughly $12 to $14 million. And frankly, the county can't afford a new complex. We absolutely cannot afford a new law and justice center. It would be nice if we could, obviously, and then keep this as a historical facility, but then how are you going to maintain this facility?
again.
And if we're
That's
having
right.
if we're having trouble as a county seeing our way through this, how would a historical society raise the revenue they need
It
to
would just sit there
maintain
and
it?
deteriorate further,
That's correct.
David.
It would.
It would just deteriorate until it was
correct.
too late.
And, you know, tourism and all the economic impact this would have reaches beyond Lincoln. It actually would affect, you know, the smaller communities as well. The courthouse does have an economic impact.
Now, I want to say to the naysayers, so I'll just tear the damn thing down. That is the most stupid comment I ever heard. We have a national treasure here, and the election is March 17th, and you have an opportunity to step to the plate and not bunt, make a home run. If you don't vote for this election or for this referendum, you're not discharging your duties as a citizen, and I mean that most sincerely. This is an opportunity to do something for our county at very little cost to each and every one of us. At very little cost. And mind you now, you will not be taxed on your groceries. You will not be taxed on your prescription medicines, two rather large items for maybe older people. That's not a burden.
Bill.
So think positively about that. Don't let the county down. Don't let your fellow citizens down. Jim Wessbecher and David Blankenship, thank you very much for being with us. We thank you for what you do as board members. You're serving your community, and a lot of times with a lot of criticism, undeserved. Thank you, gentlemen. And
Thank you for having us.
vote yes on the referendum. Thank you very much.
Thank you.